Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. I hope you're having a great day. You're listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Tersh. Today's episode is an exciting one, and I know I say that every time, but it is exciting for real. Today we have Rick Cesari on the podcast, and he is going to talk to us about video. I know that a lot of my followers who follow me on Instagram, they know that I'm not afraid of the camera. I'm now not afraid of the microphone, and most people would not know that I'm an extreme introvert. And so I don't want you to use that as an excuse to say, I'm not going to do video, or I'm not going to have video on my website or Facebook or Instagram or whatever. I don't want you to be able to use that excuse. We're going to go into some more details about this, but I don't want to spill the beans about anything. I'd like to introduce to you, Rick. He's helped major brands from GoPro to George Foreman build billion dollar brand, response advertising, and strategic video marketing. Plus, he has a really cool book that's coming out. I think it's already out, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Rick?
That's correct. It released yesterday.
Okay, so it is out. Video persuasion, everything you need to know. So I'm super excited about swooping up a copy of that myself and checking it out. And today we're going to talk about how you're going to make those videos perform better, that you're going to do it. But before we get started, I want Rick to introduce yourself, tell us where you are and why you've been so successful at doing what you're doing. And then we'll lead into some more questions.
Great. Well, first of all, Tersh, thank you for the great introduction. I really appreciate it, and also the opportunity to be on your show today.
That's
Um,
my pleasure.
just for anybody that's listening out there that's afraid of video, I'll try to give you the condensed version of my background, but I'm 62, so there's a lot of ground to cover. I graduated from college. I have a degree in biology, so I don't know how that leads into marketing. But after college, I moved down to Daytona Beach, Florida. I went to school up in
Mm,
Pennsylvania, and that my family was living there, and I was kind of a bum for a year. I was a bartender and a lifeguard, living the high life in my early 20s, but I was motivated to do more with my life, and so I started reading a lot of books about motivation and how people made money. And back then, and even still today, real estate investing was a big thing. So I started reading books and going out and trying to invest in real estate. And I went to this seminar, and they taught me how to do what they call flipping today. Back then it was called buying distressed property. And I bought a
mm.
house and sold it in 2 weeks. I made about $12,000. So
Oh,
I
wow.
yeah, I was so happy. I mean, that was like $1 million to me at that time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was so happy. I called up a business magazine in Florida. I don't even know what's around anymore. It's called Florida Trend. And I said, "Hey, you got to do a story on this guy. It's really amazing. What he teach really works." And they did a story, and basically that helped his seminar business start to be more successful. So he asked me if I would help him market. And just to give your listeners an idea of the time frame, this is the mid to late 80s, and we were still using newspaper ads to promote these seminars. But
Nice.
I learned basically a lot about selling and getting people to respond to advertising by doing that, because if you didn't get people to show up to the seminars, you wouldn't make any money. And it was these early real estate guys that were the first ones to start using television or infomercials, and
Mm,
I just kind of fell into it and learned the business by doing it. And made a lot of mistakes, but had some successes along the way. And then in 1990, I started a company with my brother. I was always interested in health, and we started a company that taught people about the benefits of drinking freshly extracted juices. And we promoted a
mm.
guy named the Juice Man. And that was a fabulous success. We were at the right time, at the right product. And the company just exploded, and it grew to about 75 million in sales in a little
Wow.
under 4 years. And we sold that business in 93 to a company in Chicago called Salton. And Salton bought us, one, because they wanted the brands that we had built, which was the Juice Man and the Bread Man, but they also wanted to learn how to do the type of television marketing. And so they brought me two products. One was a homemade bagel maker, and the other one was this slanted grill, which at the time was a fajita maker, and it was slanted so you could cook hamburger meat into it and scrape it
Hmm.
into a shell. We basically that morphed into the George Foreman grill, which is a whole other story. And we did all of the infomercials for George, and help build that brand up. And one of the things in your introduction, you mentioned that I built several products like George Foreman, and I helped with OxyClean, and
Hmm.
more recently the GoPro camera and the billion-dollar brands. But every one of those, I started working with, they weren't big companies when I started working with them. They were all
Hmm.
doing, some were startups and some were doing less than $1 million in sales, and just was able to work with them and use television direct response, and with GoPro more online video to help build them into brands. So that's kind of the short condensed version. We could spend the whole hour talking about all the different stories and brands that you mentioned earlier, but that's how I got into the uh, video marketing. And you mentioned my
That's
book,
cool.
just real quick, is
Yeah.
all of that experience of doing this for the last 30 years I've kind of condensed and put into the book. And you mentioned something interesting about being afraid to be in front of the camera. I even have a
Mhm.
chapter about that, about being your own spokesperson, and we can talk about that later. So,
Yeah, that's a good point because if you're not going to do it, nobody's going to do it. Like nobody's going to be your spokesman for you unless
mhm.
you're paying a PR company. But it's really cool. So did all these companies that you work with, did they start out infomercial, or I don't recall like seeing GoPro on any kind of
Yeah, so
infomercial.
GoPro is and projects that I've worked on more recently
Mhm.
are the exception. And they're not the exception because they've all used video to grow. We just used it in different ways, and that's something that's really important that I want to communicate to your listeners that are afraid of technology. And I'm the least technical person in the world. And I focus on the content of the video. What do you put in there to get people to respond a certain way? And the early projects that I mentioned were direct response television infomercials, but GoPro basically was a combination of using 30-second spots. And normally 30 seconds isn't enough time to do a direct response spot. But one of the things we did with the GoPro spots, which I recommend that people, one little trick that they use for the videos, is we started every 30-second commercial out with a GoPro logo, so people knew right away what the commercial was about. How many times have you ever um, watching a TV commercial or watching a video online, and you have no idea what it's about until you're like 5 minutes in, or you flick away
Right.
from it. So I'm a big believer in letting people know up front what the video is about. Then we used user generated footage in the middle, and it could be people snowboarding, scuba diving, jumping off
Mm.
a cliff, whatever. But the end is the really important part. We added a direct response ending. We had an offer that said, go to our website. Someone will win one of everything we make every single day. So
Wow.
yeah, three great things happened. People would go to the website, they'd register for the contest, and we would start building a database that we could remarket to through emails. The second thing that happened, people would get to the website, they'd see all the other cool GoPro videos, they'd share them with their friends, and it created a viral effect. And the last thing that happened is really the direct response component. People would get to the website and they'd buy a GoPro camera. So the advertisement was generating revenue, which we used to offset the advertising costs. So it's kind of a little microcosm of everything I try to teach people to do in that campaign for GoPro. And, um, I met the founder, Nick Woodman, at a trade show, the Outdoor Retailer Show in Salt Lake City. He was selling these little cameras out of the back of a Volkswagen bus, and he was doing less than 1 million in sales. And in 8 years, we were able to grow the business from that size to $1 billion, and he took the company public. So, uh,
Wow, that's cool.
yeah, really awesome success story.
So with GoPro, like when you're doing that and you're throwing your logo out there really fast at the beginning, like I know I'm a really big car guy, and when GoPros first came out, it was a huge thing that like you had to have a GoPro with a suction cup,
Yeah.
and like anytime you did anything with cars, you had your GoPro.
Yep.
Um, their logo is etched into my brain. Would you like? I would fear. any potential rebrand or logo changes if like if you've built that brand that way. Is that, I mean, is that a concern that they've ever had? I don't feel like I remember GoPro changing
Yeah,
logos, but they may
they
have.
did, and one thing that Nick, the founder, was adamant about, and I didn't come up with the logo. He or his team did, and they just kind of hit it or nailed it correctly. But that's an
Yeah.
important point for branding, and the fact is, find something that you like, you're comfortable with, and then don't change it. He was really, really adamant that every little letter had to be the same size, the
Mm,
same font. And there's a reason you remember that logo is because it was the same one since day one, and they kept using it. And so I'm a proponent of that. Is finding something that you're comfortable with, the name of your business, your logo, and then every time you do any type of correspondence, advertising, online marketing, social media, you're imprinting that logo in people's minds, and they start to recall it after a while.
yeah, I agree with that 100%. So, can before we get started, can you tell us why is video so important?
Well, it's interesting. Yes, that's a great question. And, we're just really becoming what I call a video first society. People just don't like to read anymore. And I got a couple statistics I just want to share with you because I find them pretty interesting. Every second, almost 17,000 hours of new video will be produced. Um, Forbes reported that in the last 30 days, um, there's been more video produced than all the television networks combined produced in the last 30 years.
Wow.
And this year they predict nearly 80% of all internet traffic will be made up of videos. And so you can see that we're quickly becoming, because of the way technology is developed, what I said, a video first society. But then you like layer on some of the statistics about the effectiveness of video. Viewers retain 95% of a message when they watch it in a video, with compared to only 10% in reading it in a text.
Mm.
Using video in an email leads to 200 to 300% increase in click-through rates. Including video on a landing page can increase conversion rates by 80%. And those statistics go on and on. I have a whole chapter in my book that supports why video is so important. And if you aren't using it, you need to be using it in your business, because it's really just the way that um, people are used to communicating now.
Yeah, I agree 100%, especially with stuff like Instagram come out. I mean, I know Instagram had a stigma back in the day when it was first out that, uh, you take a picture of your food before you eat it and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But really, with between the live videos of Instagram and Facebook and
Hmm.
Snapchat and all those social media sites, um, getting on video is a lot more commonplace. And like you said, people will do video and not even listen to it. It's funny because you'll like it'll be silent on there and they're just
Oh yeah.
watching the video and have engagement that way,
Yeah, so it
which is
sounds
really
like
cool.
you're used to using Instagram. I haven't checked out your channel, but Instagram, Facebook, we do a lot of Facebook advertising now, and video has always performed better. Even though sometimes people don't watch it with the audio, you just have to create it
Hmm.
and make sure you have the titles in so that people, while they're watching it, know the titles are really calling out what's happening. But
Hmm.
yeah, so it's just that's what I was mentioning before about, when I started doing video production, it was very, very expensive. I mean, a camera cost like $75,000, and you
Mm.
didn't own them. You had to rent them and hire a video crew, and it might cost you $5,000 to $10,000 to do a video shoot for a day, and then you had the editing part of it. And now technology has evolved to where we carry more powerful cameras in our phones than we used to use back then. They're high definition 4D cameras and really great things. And I talk about how to utilize that technology, so that you can use it to start making your own videos that you can post on social media or on your website.
Yeah, that's really cool. So, are there's ways to make those videos work better, or is it? I mean,
Yeah,
or is
and
it like is there a structure to set up to that?
yeah, there's I really go into my book in I think it's chapter 5, and like 4 or 5 different structures that are really great for engaging people. But let me give you the simplest structure, and I'm sure you've heard this before. I read a book when I was in my 20s called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale
Hmm.
Carnegie. And
Hmm.
I actually took a course from, not from him personally, I think he was passed away, but an instructor, and it was about speaking. And Dale gave a formula for giving a speech, which is tell them what you're going to say it, and then tell them what you said. And I've used that simple formula over and over again in my videos, even successful infomercials like the George Foreman Grill or Sonicare toothbrush or Rug Doctor. Though it might not appear that's happening, that's what's really happening. And I go into a lot of depth, really comparing good video production and producing good videos is very similar to preparing a PowerPoint presentation or a speech that you have to give in front of a group or from a stage. And you have to be able to hook the listener or hook the viewer into it. And then you present the main information, and then you do a summary at the end. And if you study anything about giving speeches or creating PowerPoint presentations, it's really a lot of the same concepts to promoting or creating really great, effective videos.
That's really cool. I like that. It's instead of going on and rambling because uh, me personally, whenever a video starts getting rambly, that's when I'm like, exit,
Yep,
exit stage right. I'm
absolutely.
done.
Yep.
If you have that structure set up, then it's precise to the point, and people will appreciate that for
Yeah, well,
sure.
it definitely it goes back again to what we did with GoPro. You said exit stage right. Well, right away when someone's watching a GoPro video or any other video that I'll make for somebody, you know right away what it's about. And then you have two choices at that point. No one's ever going to make a video that every single person is interested in. So the people
Hmm.
that are interested in what you're talking about are going to stay engaged to see what you're going to promise them or what kind of content you're going to deliver, and the ones that tune out aren't going to be your potential customers anyway. But that brings us to a good point, and it's kind of like, how do you start a video to hook people in? um,
Yeah.
and again, I go back to I, I go over about a half a dozen ways in my book, but 3 simple ways. You can always start a video with a question like, would you like to lose 10 pounds? How would you like to have more energy? Do you get good sleep at night? And so, again, you're kind of throwing out a question or a problem that many people will have. And if they're hoping then that what follows up is the answer to that question, or you're going to deliver
Hmm.
some kind of content that is going to enable them to solve that problem. So that's always a good way of starting a video. Another way is to start it with a factoid, and I'll give you an example. I talked to you about the when we made the infomercial for the juice man. I had seen a story on CNN, and the story said that scientists had just discovered an element in broccoli that was shown to prevent breast cancer. So I started that video out with what's called a factoid. So it's
Mm.
some fact or something that's pretty revolutionary or new or whatever. And that one had just come out, and I started that half-hour infomercial with that factoid. And then anybody that was interested in the power of vegetables or preventing disease, was drawn in to listen what came next. And so
Mhm.
that's another good way of doing it. And the last is one you've probably heard about before, and it's good old storytelling and starting a video out with
Mm,
a
yep.
with a story. And just because that's people love to listen to stories. And just like I told you
True.
the story about GoPro earlier, that's how you can start that out, start a video out with a story like that, and again, that'll hook people in.
Absolutely. So, hook people, what did you say the second part
Oh, I
was?
didn't. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay. I thought you did.
um, so, when you talk about making effective videos, I think the first thing you have to do, I have a saying that I like to say is that is start with the end in mind. and that is, what
Yeah.
is it you're trying to get the person to do when they watch that video? And I just want your listeners to know that we're not talking about entertaining videos from the standpoint of like family vacations or that type of thing. I'm talking about videos as a business tool. And so you have to think like, what what are you trying to do with that video? And once you know what you want to do, then that helps you construct the video and helps you, do an introduction. So the other thing is you have to really figure out who the video is targeted for. And everybody has a target demographic. You might not know what that is, but you have to do a little research, or talk to your customers, find out what what who are the person you're trying to reach, and then you
Hmm.
basically put the content in the video that will cater to that. And we'll talk a little bit about that in more detail. um, One of the other things I like to use, and I use it in almost every video in some form or not, and that's kind of authentic testimonials. And I think that they're
Mm.
really the most powerful marketing tool you can get. And if your listeners, some of your listeners, or many of your listeners have their own businesses, first thing I would urge them to do, and I do this with companies I consult with all the time, is let's go out and talk to 10 or 15 or 20 of your customers and interview them. And I'll just happen to have a video camera there, and we'll tape them. And but two things are happening when I do that. First of all, when I'm talking to people, I'll ask them, what do you like about the product or service? What do you don't like? How do you hear about it? What would you do to improve it? And I'll ask a list of 20 questions that are pretty much very similar, no matter what the product or service. And I have those in my book. And by the end of that time, it's the best focus group you can have, because these people have actually purchased your product. They're customers of yours. And you'd be shocked,
Hmm.
Tersh, how few people actually talk to their customers on a regular basis. And yet they're the best source of
Mm.
information. And I just take it a step further, and I'm recording these testimonials. So now I have great sound bites. Like you never know when you're going to
Yeah.
get a nugget of gold from somebody, and you can never. I've never met a copywriter that could write lines as good as people come up with just off the cuff, and people realize that it's really authentic when they hear it. And that's what I use in my marketing, and I deploy those testimonials on the website, and in emails, and even use them in Facebook ads and things like that. So it's a really, really powerful thing to do. And I guess the last part of a business focused video, and this seems like common sense, but again, many people don't do it, is not to forget the CTA, or call to action. People watch a video, they get excited about your business or service, and then you don't tell them what to do. And, it's
Hmm.
like, go to my website to get more information. Go, put the product in the cart, push the buy button on Amazon. It doesn't have to be a purchase thing, but it's always important to tell the viewer the next step that you want them to take. And again, it's an area that I see a lot of people when they're making videos don't do.
So on that topic there, so I'll
Sure,
start at the end and work
sure.
my way backwards. The call to action. What are your thoughts on something like what Gary V? Are
Yes.
you familiar
Yep.
with Gary
Yep.
Vaynerchuk? So like the jab jab right hook, like give
Hmm.
give give, then ask. Uh, would you still add the call to action to every video if that's your
Well, I
intention?
guess
Or
and again, every circumstance is different. So he's coming from
Mhm.
a place of more social media marketing, and social media
Yeah,
is really about, to me, delivering great content. And
true.
you're delivering content, and then you're going to ask for some type of sale or order after you've built that trust. And that's why, not every video has to be quote unquote like an infomercial or an online infomercial type of thing.
Yeah.
And again, that's where it goes back to. really understanding, the end in mind. What are you trying to do? Are we going to provide right now? So I'll give you the best way to answer that question, because again, there's not one size fits all, but the three most engaging types of online video content are, first, number one, tutorials. And tutorials are basically how-to videos. So if you have a website and you're selling a product or a service, you should have some type of tutorial video that teaches people how to use the product. The second most type of engaging online content is demonstration video. And demonstration video falls more in line with what we were just talking about introducing your product. When you're describing it, you're focusing on the benefits. You mentioned the features, but you definitely call out the benefits to the end user, and that's the one that would normally have a call to action, because you're
Mhm.
demonstrating the product. You want people to buy it or learn more, and that would be the one with the call to action. And the third type of video I already talked about, which is testimonials. And for your listeners today, Tersh, if they go to my website, which is rickcesari.com, they can download an ebook that's basically what I just talked about, the three most popular types of online video content, and how you can deploy them in your business to get a good return.
That's cool. It's really funny because, like, every time we talk about one thing, we it kind of,
It
rabbit
leads to
holes
another.
into
Yeah.
and it's all, like, I'm just taking notes as fast as I can write it down. I don't even know if I'll be able to read it after the fact, but, it's just all this content's really cool, and, so whenever you were reviewing things with your clients, that's kind of I feel like that's an awkward thing for a lot of people to do, and that's probably why they don't do it, and then also, like, in our minds, we're all perfect, and then when
Hmm.
you actually go review somebody and you ask them, like, "Hey, tell me about this experience," and they're like, "Oh, by the way, your guy left all this trash everywhere," and it's stuff you need to hear, but in your
Yes.
mind, if before you asked, everything was hunky dory, and now
Oh yeah,
you've asked
and
and
that's why, it's really beneficial to talk to your clients or your customers, because they'll tell you the truth, and you
Mm,
need to hear it, because I feel like business is a constant um, feedback loop. You do something, you put it out in the marketplace, it starts to work, you get feedback from your customers, your clients, you improve it, then you do it a little bit better, and it just keeps evolving until the gets better and better and better.
yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's just, getting rid of our egos and
Yes.
getting and just do it. Just get out there and do it, and then, like, I look back at some of my first videos and my first podcast episodes, and it's like, "Oh, that was horrible," and it just the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah, it's like anything else, and people don't realize that or don't think it in that terms. I really, probably 3 months ago, just started doing Facebook Lives,
Mhm.
and I'm usually the guy behind the camera.
Mhm.
I'm not like I don't operate the camera, but I look at what's happening, and like make sure we're getting the right content.
Mhm.
And I'm not usually in front of the camera. And Facebook Live, once you push that button, you start
It's there.
talking. And I'll tell you what, the first, like you said, the first half a dozen I did were not very good. But it's really like anything else. Like nobody is like a great athlete necessarily,
Right.
or a great musician. It takes a lot of practice. And the thing is, there's a lot of really, 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 really bad video online, and
Yeah.
don't have to worry. And everyone starts somewhere. And I think people are very forgiving, as long as things are authentic. And authentic means that you're doing your best. People can see that, and gradually things will get better.
Absolutely. That's like whenever people ask me about podcasting and how to get started and all that. It's like,
Mhm.
don't compare your first episode to my 418th episode.
Exactly.
And,
Exactly.
like, yeah, this is amazing. You're gonna listen to the best sound no, I'm gonna toot my horn. It's like I've had tons and tons of practice, like, every hour that I recorded this, I've spent 2 hours editing, and then, like so now things are second nature to me, and, um, when I say the intro, like it rolls right off my tongue because I've said it 418 times, times 12 probably.
Yep.
So don't compare your video, your first shaky hand video, if you want to get prepared, get you a small tripod. They're like $5 on Amazon. Get you a lav mic that hooks up to your cell phone, and take you a selfie video. And like, but don't compare yourself to someone who has, a red camera and like this full on gimbal, and they're, out there riding behind a snowboarder. Like you can't. If you do that, you're always going to set yourself up for failure.
Oh yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. I spend um, a chapter in the book talking about video production, because that's an area that people think like, well, I want to get into video, but I don't know how to do it. And like I said earlier, technology has made things so much easier for us that there's apps online. You know. I name like 10 of them, but one of them's like Content Samurai, where you can basically plug in a written page, a blog, and it'll be create a video for you, and you can read in a
What?
voiceover. Yeah, no, honestly, go look them up. You can do a free trial called Content Samurai. um and but that's one of many apps. I list like 10 of them like that, that do all the video work for you. But I want to get back to what you said. People are using their cell phones to make video, which is great. The lenses are great, the cameras are great, but the two areas that people fall down on, and you mentioned one of them, is audio. And you can go to Amazon, like you said, and buy a little tripod, and you can get a nice mic. And the last
Hmm.
thing is like a little light.
Yep.
They sell these little ring lights that even come with stands. And if you have those three things, you can get all three of them for less than $100. All of a sudden, your videos will look
Yep.
like 100% better than if you didn't weren't using those things. So again, technology has made it really, really easy for anyone to
Absolutely. I
create good
sometimes
video.
I'm going back to Instagram again, but sometimes I'll watch an Instagram video and I'm like, man, that is like super clear. It's like almost looks 4K. And like, what camera are you using? I'll ask whoever's doing the little live video or the story. And they're like, oh, that's my iPhone XR. I just put the ring light around it and I have my live mic hooked up to the
Yep.
bottom of it. And it's like, wow.
Yeah, I got a little ring light sitting on my desk right here, and they have a place to hold. They have a mount to hold your
Hmm.
phone, and then, like I said, this part better than me, the microphone or audio part. And if you do those three things and just improve lighting a little bit and improve the audio, your videos will be much more watchable.
Yeah, I love it. That's 100%. I agree. Um, so I've jumped around in so many different rabbit holes. I don't even know where we were.
I know. But let me just tell a quick story then.
Go
Was I
ahead. Go
started
ahead.
out, well, let me just tell, this will just be really quick. So I was telling you about the George Foreman grill. When we first got that product, it was called the Fajita Express, and they weren't selling any of them. And
I
George,
think that I actually have one. I
you
think my
probably
dad
do.
still has it.
They've sold 100 million units, so a lot of people
Okay.
have them. Okay.
All right.
And one of the most successful products all time. But anyway, they basically, Georgia just won the heavyweight championship for the second time. He was 46 years old. He was the oldest ever to do it. And he was looking for a product to endorse. And somehow we got connected with him. And I was working with the company out of Chicago called Sultan at the time. And we basically took that Fajita Express and turned it into the lean, mean, fat reducing grilling machine. It's a, talk about repositioning of a product. And basically the slanted, and basically what became a way of draining grease and fat away from the food. So anyway, that whole campaign was a huge success. Everyone's heard of the George Foreman grill. And so about 4 months ago, I got a call out of the blue from George Foreman's agent, and I hadn't worked with George in 15 years. and they said, "Hey, George is looking to license another product, and they need help with their TV. Would you be interested?" So I jumped at the chance. I said, "Of course."
Yeah.
And there's a company called Real Time Pain Relief that makes pain relief products for athletes. They hold a lot of licenses with professional teams in, Major League Baseball and NFL and things like that. Anyway, they hired George to be the spokesperson, and about 3 weeks ago now, we were down in LA and we filmed a commercial with him promoting this product. So you'll see that on TV probably in the next month or so coming up. And it was good. He hasn't, in 15 years, the guy hasn't changed at all. He's just, he's
Really?
an authentic person that what you see is what you get. And I think that's what his appeal is to people.
That's really cool. Yeah, I have a really good friend of mine. Jeez, excuse me. A really good friend of mine, Mike McAllowitz, and he, when you talk to him or you listen to him on a podcast or anywhere, you're like, "Oh, that's got to be a stage. You're acting like that." No, he's literally exactly like that, and that's why he's so many people's best friends. But that Fajita Express, the before it was the George Foreman, I'm almost positive that my dad still has an old Fajita
No,
Express. Like,
that would be interesting.
it's
That would be, let me know if
it's
he does. That would be a collector's item.
I will
Uh,
I will check it out and let you know because I remember that thing growing up in high school and middle school. I remember seeing that thing, and my dad messed with that thing all the time, and then he got him a George Foreman to upgrade to that, and I was like, "Oh, man, dad, you're gonna go crazy with this thing." So your avatar, that's the number 2, creating your avatar, your perfect person that your content's aimed towards. Um, that's something that you need to do in general anyways, because when you're marketing to your client, you can't just sling everything against the wall and see what sticks. You really need to know who you're targeting. You wanna touch on that just a little bit?
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's really become much more important with the online advertising platforms, and actually gives us the ability to target people much better than we ever could before. The things about the old television infomercial days, I used to tell people that was a shotgun blast. Basically, you were trying to buy, when we bought media time, we were trying to buy as many viewers for the cheapest amount of money as possible and put the advertisement out in front of them and see if we could get the right return. Could we get $2 for every dollar we spent on media? And with the online platforms now, it's become much more about targeting, but you can't target if you don't understand who your customer is. And I go back to one, if you have a mailing list, that will tell you who your customer is. You can do matching, audience matches on Facebook. And again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, going out and talking to your customer or your client, and you'll get a really good understanding of who they are just by the nature of the people that show up. I know it sounds simplistic, but it's something like, if I go in to consult with a business, that's still what I do today.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So will this process work if somebody's doing, television advertising, like, commercials, on TV? I'll admit, we actually took televisions out of our house about 6 years ago. So, when it comes to TV, I don't know if infomercials are still even a thing, honestly. We do a lot of social media, but, television, we don't do, so I can't really relate that.
So television, what's happened is the in a marketing hierarchy, the place for television has really flip flopped from online. It used to be you could launch a product on television and create a success, and it was a lot more expensive than launching something online, but it was still doable. Now I feel like you absolutely 100% have to launch a product through social media and online and through your website. And then as you start to get traction and you have built that foundation, TV is still very effective to like taking you to the next level. And if you think about it, you don't watch TV, you don't have TVs in your house, but there's a huge amount of online companies that are advertising on TV.
I can
And
imagine.
yeah, and basically it's a way of another source of driving traffic to their websites, especially a lot of direct to consumer product companies. They're selling mattresses or, just ancestry.com.
Hmm.
Just, I mean, any type, personal relationships, match, whatever. But a lot of direct to
Mm,
consumer product or service companies, they'll layer in TV now as like a second phase, and that's how we use it with our clients as well. That
gotcha.
that we have to build up our online marketing first. Once that foundation is in place, you can run TV, and then because a lot of times people are basically see something on TV and they'll go do two things. They'll go Google it or they'll go right to
Hmm.
Amazon. And so
Mm,
you almost have to have like, we like to say there's like three legs to the stool. Amazon is one of them. If you have a hard, a consumer product, your website, and then your other advertising, which if you have those three things in place, you can build a pretty good business.
So, with that being said, it sounds like that's pretty much the structure I believe that a small service business would do too. Like start
Absolutely.
online as you grow your online audience, then you would venture out into television and radio versus
Yes.
trying to start with that huge budget in mind.
Well, the problem now too is that because online's become so prevalent, if you spend money on TV and you don't have a good online presence, you end up wasting a lot of your money. Because again,
Mm.
people will see it on TV and then they'll go check you out online. And so that's why the other reason why you got to build up your website and your social media, get that foundation, and then TV can still be a powerful way to drive traffic and sales.
So I got a question about GoPro. And
Sure.
when they sent the viewing audience at the end of the video, it said go to you had your direct response and it said to go to the website and you watched other videos. How long did it take to create that content? Because I'm thinking to myself, like, if I put on an ad, like a Facebook ad at the end of it, it said, go watch more videos on our website, I would have to have more videos on the website.
Yes,
So, like,
yeah, and GoPro's an anomaly only because they were people they generated so much user
oh, right.
generated content that,
Yeah.
they didn't have to pay for their content like every other normal business has to do,
I
so.
remember when we would record and it's like, maybe they'll put it on their site and, like, now I'm like, "Please send me a video," like
Oh, yeah.
like, I'm begging you to do stuff, or I pay you to do it, and we were begging GoPro to put our stuff on their
Oh,
site.
absolutely, and that's one of the reasons they were able to get such cool, video is they had people competing. I mean, it almost became, people were competing to see who could create the coolest video, and so they were doing all the production costs and sending it into GoPro, and the
Yep.
people at GoPro had to sit there and just say, "Hmm, which video do we like best?" And then
Yeah,
and really, there wasn't a lot of cost to them that would have been if they had to go out and produce all that stuff themselves.
that's a great point. So, with that being said, though, how many videos do you think that we should have on our website? Like, as
Yeah,
a
so
small business, and
that's a
and
great
and we're doing
question.
less than 1,000,000 or something like
Yeah,
that.
no, I understand. That's a great question, and so people ask me how do we use video on a website. So I feel like the one single most important video is the one that when you first go to the website, I want to see a video that tells me what your business is, what is it that you do, why are you different than the competition, and what's the benefit to me. And that's kind of an overview or a highlight video or your origin story, but it's really a 90-second to 2-minute video that really tells everybody what they need to know about you or your business, and that gives people a really good, thing that they can learn, they see right away. So that would be the first thing I would deploy. The second
Now,
thing
would you
go
really
ahead.
quick, would you put that above the fold or
I would,
on the
absolutely.
homepage?
I
Okay.
would put it above the fold. A lot of times you'll kind of have a headline and
Mhm.
stuff off to the left and then a little video window on the right. And again, that's just a really simple way for people to get a lot of great information about you or your business very quickly. And then the second, to me, the second most important types of videos, what we talked about already, I would create, if you don't have them, some testimonial videos. And again, go out and talk to your customers, record that video, and those can go, below the fold. They can go in a different section that you click to, a different page on your website. But that's to me the second most important thing. Um, and then the third then is when I would start looking at a tutorial video or demonstration video, for each of your product or services.
Man, I'm writing down like furious.
Well, you
I'm
don't
gonna
have to write all that. It's all in my book. You can
have
you can go to
well,
Amazon and get video persuasion. And one of the great things, it's not just my information. One thing I did, uh, at the end of every chapter, I interview, quote unquote, an expert that's using video to successfully grow their business. And somebody, there's a story about somebody that developed these earphones for kid called cozy phones, and how he used video on Facebook ads to grow his business. I have another guy who's like an e-commerce. He's been in e-commerce forever. He has a website called ladders.com.
mm,
He did the Little Giant Ladder online business, and he also does a lot of fitness products. And he's a big and he we interview him, and he's a big advocate of tutorial videos because it cuts down on his customer service calls if you really
yeah.
explain the product. So there's really great interviews at the end of every chapter with people that are implementing videos in their business and how they're doing it right now in the marketplace.
All right. Well, that's what I'm doing as soon as I finish recording here. So
I hope some of your listeners do too.
absolutely. If you're listening to this and you're driving, I will add a link in the show notes. So don't wreck by
Yeah,
getting on
exactly.
Amazon while driving.
Yes.
But yes, order the book. That's really cool. I'm not going to ask anything else. I could go on for hours. I'm just going to
Well, this is
say,
fun. I
if
really enjoyed, you're
I
great
do
at
too, I
asking
appreciate it.
questions. So
So, uh, if people want to get in touch with you more, what's the best way for that to happen?
the best way is really go to my website, which is rickcesari.com. It's RickCesari, rickcesari.com, and download that free information. I'll have your mailing address, and then I'll be corresponding and sending you great free information like Gary Vee says to do, but it really the kind of things we're talking about today. But also I write a weekly blog that's really,
Mm,
really informative. And I know that I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because I talk about video, but I like to write as well, and really great information in the blogs. But I also have a YouTube channel, which is this almost the same thing, which is rickcesari.tv, and everything I have on there. How do you create a good demo video? How do you create a powerful opening? How do you hook the viewer? And so I have videos that explain all these things, where it's me just kind of um, talking into the camera, but then showing examples from successful commercials I've made in the past.
awesome.
Yep.
So you're about to get a follow from, Icebound. That would be me. That's our AC
Okay.
company. So
Cool.
on YouTube, you're gonna get a follow here instantly, so I could start watching those videos too. Cool, man. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Like all this information, it's stuff that you took the time to share with our audience, and tons of business owners who coming into this conversation probably were just like me and had no idea about things like Content Samurai or anything like that, and getting your book. So I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing with us.
Hey, it's been my pleasure, and thank you for having me on. And like I said, I've really enjoyed speaking with you. You're easy to have a conversation with, but like you said, it's your 400th time, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Plus some because I have 2 other podcasts
Oh, I
too.
didn't know
So,
that. Wow, you
yeah,
stay
they're just
busy.
local. Yeah, well, they're local podcasts for local business owners,
Okay.
so I can
Yep.
introduce myself and meet other business owners. Which, if anybody's listening, you should do that. If you're in an area
Yes.
and you want to get to know more business owners, create a podcast and interview other business owners. Ours is called Shop Small SAV, so Shop Small for Savannah, and it's interviewing other business owners and All you're doing is creating that relationship. And then when the referrals need to happen, that there they are right there.
Yeah,
So
podcasting is just growing exponentially. I went to
it
Podfest
really is.
last year down in Orlando. I don't know if you've,
Oh,
it's like
cool.
a thing for podcasters, and it was
Oh,
just
yeah.
amazing the different content that was there.
And the technology that's coming out
Yes,
around podcasting is crazy. Yep.
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
They're making it easier and easier to do. I mean, you can do it from your phone if you use something like Anchor and just record your episode.
Yep, technology's making it easier to reach people all the time.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. So thank you again for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
And thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast, the Service Business Mastery podcast. That is, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, obviously we'll put all of Rick's content and how to reach out to him in the show notes. But you can feel free to reach out to me, Tersh, at icebound.us. If you're wondering how we cram, my wife and our family, we cram 4 kids and us and her being in the military and a nurse, and she helps with Icebound, and we have 3 podcasts, and she's a health coach. How we cram all that in together in 1 week. One of the ways that we do that is by automating our day. So we automate everything throughout our day. One of those things is an autoresponder in an email so that we can set up and limit your expectations. So whenever somebody sends an email to me, I will always send an autoresponder to let you know I will respond to you today, but I only check my emails twice a day. So if it's you need immediate response, please call the office. And that's just one of those things where, like, every time my phone chimes, I don't have to pick it up. So it just mentally, I can just focus on other things like recording this podcast. So if you want to check that out, feel free to email me and just say testing autoresponder. And that's Tersh, Tersh at icebound.us. And if I don't talk to you before next week, I'll talk to you then. Also, if you found value in this episode, please share it with your friends and take a screenshot of it and share it on social media. If you have Instagram, share it in your Instagram stories, tag me, and I'll follow you back. We can follow each other. We can be social media friends. But anyways, until next time, thank you again for listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast, the podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians who are considering becoming business owners themselves. We'll talk again soon.